What I'd like to do is first welcome you to the Vote Lake Bluff Town meetings. I'll take a few minutes to talk to you about our organization, and then we'll go through some housekeeping, and then finally the agenda, and then we'll get things kicked off. So Vote Lake Bluff, the vote stands for Volunteers Organized to Elect. Catchy, huh? It's been around for many years. It's had different iterations and different names, but really it is a modest collection of Lake Bluff residents just like yourselves. It is apolitical. It is nonpartisan. We have about 10 or 12 people on our committee. I couldn't tell you who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, who's an independent, and it doesn't matter. It is really one of the truest forms of grassroots democracy and small-town politics that you're ever going to find, which is what kind of compelled me to join this organization. And what we do, it's a very simple remit. We are here to identify and support candidates for the local board positions within our community, specifically the village, the library, the schools, and the parks, okay? And every springtime in the odd-numbered years, so this year it'll occur on April 4th of 2023, we have what's called a consolidated election. And that really speaks to those various board positions that funnel up in the various cities and towns and municipalities in our state. There may be a mayoral election or something in there, but really, for our purposes, the consolidated election speaks to the various boards, and that'll go obviously through the county. I'd like to also thank the candidates, not only for tonight, but tomorrow night, for stepping up to the plate. It's really an essential part of local government, and it's one of the many things that is consistent, I think, with the spirit of Lake Bluff, that sense of volunteerism. So thank you for that. Our work really culminates in these town meetings. And we typically have the village and the library paired together because that represents an entity unique to Lake Bluff, right? The village of Lake Bluff, who are the primary users of village and library services. Tomorrow night, we'll include the Park District Board of Commissioners and District 65, which obviously extends to people in our community who don't live in Lake Bluff proper. So that's just an explanation of how we, course out the various meeting participants for each of the two evenings. We'll do four things tonight, and this is really the essence of the town meetings. We'll hear from our candidates, and we believe this forum is really the only way for the Lake Bluff community to hear from the candidates. We will query the candidates. So you, in the audience, will have a chance to ask questions of concerns about a specific board. The mechanism for doing that is just in the interest of time and economy of microphones and whatnot. We've always done it by a note card system. So our runners, Robin over here is showing you the note cards. Those will be passed out, and Jill in the back. So if anyone has a question when it's time for the Q&A session for each board, raise your hand. These ladies will get you a card and a pen or pencil. They'll collect the cards, and then these ladies to my right here will look at the questions and collate them into general themes. We need to be efficient so that we're not here for 6 hours tonight. And we do have both the library and the village. So we'll try to make good use of our time. They'll collect common themes of interest amongst you. They'll funnel those questions up to me, and then I will ask the candidates. No one person does this alone. I'm honored to chair this organization, but I'd just like to take a second to call out my fellow colleagues on Vote Lake Bluff, specifically Margaret Abel, David J. Anderson, Neil Dahlman, Robin Huzik, John Josephitis, Tim Penich, Jillian Rosa, Kathy O'Hara, Jan Schnobrick, and Paul Lemieux. And I hope I haven't missed anyone, but please join me in offering them a nice round of applause for their work. So all of you hopefully have in your hand both an agenda and the ballot for tonight's activities. As you can see, we'll go through the library trustees first. And then I think just a slight deviation from the agenda. Between the library and the village candidates, I'm going to ask Dave to come up and speak to you about our finances and donations. We accept, we don't have grant money. It's obviously not a salaried position, so to keep this organization running and vibrant. We'll explain to you what the costs are and ask for your support in that regard. Then we'll go to the village candidates. And then lastly, we will distribute or collect your ballots. But at that time, we don't need a decision now or a show of hands, but it looks like both boards are non-contested elections, meaning there are candidates for each open position. There's not extra, like 6 candidates running for 3 board positions, which will be the case tomorrow night, by the way. So we can either do it by a simple show of hands, or if you're more comfortable actually writing down your vote, we can do it that way. I'll ask that question later on in the evening. Okay, so without further ado, we will go ahead and get going. First order of business, I mentioned that these are non-contested elections tonight. So I want to ask, are there any open nominations, any nominations from the floor for some candidate or candidates that do not appear on the ballot? Okay, I don't see any hands raising up, so we will consider the ballot closed and we'll proceed as is. So with that, I'd like to ask our library candidates to please have a seat at the table. I would like to welcome Sandy Berg to please give her 2-minute statement of candidacy. 1 minute for all question responses, okay? Sandy, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sandy Berg. I've lived in town since 1996. I'm a terrible speaker, I apologize. I love this town. When I got a call asking me to do this, at first I was hesitant because there's so much that I want to give to this town, and I just haven't done it yet. And then it occurred to me that I really want to do this because it's an important place. I raised my kids here. I have 2 boys, Ian and Eric Berg. They're grown now, but it's been a really important place for my family. I am on the local running club, and as my friends here know, I love to read. So one of them just said tonight that I'm the perfect person because I've read everything, which is not true. But no, it's not. But I love to read, and Sandy, so thank you.
I'm hearing we're having a hard time picking you up in the back, so I'm going to ask all of the candidates tonight to get that microphone very close to your mouth. And
I can do that.
Or feel free to take it out.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, much better.
Yikes. Okay, so I have previously been on 2 boards. I was on the Lake Forest Lake Bluff Running Club board, and then I've also been on the Learning Disabilities Association board as the representative for Lake Bluff. I just want to let you know that now that I'm thinking about doing this, it's really important. I'm happy to I want to step up and just be whatever is necessary for doing this. So that's it. I'm so nervous. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, Alexandra.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Friedemann. I have been a resident of Lake Bluff for a year and a half. I grew up in Lake Forest and came back to the North Shore from Seattle last summer with my family. I'm a former special education teacher and school administrator, and previously co-founded an elementary charter network in Washington State. So much of my experience has been in the nonprofit education sector. I currently operate a consulting business that provides strategic growth planning and ethical fundraising services for nonprofits, specifically in education. And I'm deeply passionate about libraries as critical community resources, and particularly passionate about ensuring that they continue to be diverse and culturally responsive collections, particularly for children and adolescents in our community. My family and I utilize it on a regular basis, and it is something that I am honored to have the opportunity to run for a library trustee position in order to help steward both the operational and financial health of this as a really important resource moving forward. I am an avid reader. I, as an educator, have great respect for the value that it provides to the community, and have been an active member in my short time here in several other volunteer organizations, including Moms Demand Action, as the Be Smart lead that has given me an opportunity to build a lot of collaborative relationships in the village. So thank you for your time tonight and for your consideration.
And Janie.
Hi, my name is Janie Jersh. I have lived in Lake Bluff since 1976, raised my family here, and I am in the middle of, well, towards the end actually, of completing my second term on the library board. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I can assure you that during this month you will attend more exciting events than this tonight, but few that are as important, because this is one of the only boards that this is the only board that I've ever been on where we are required to stand for election because we are the stewards of your tax dollars. And that is something that I take very seriously as a board member. I do like to spend money. I'd love to see us do lots of stuff that at the library that we haven't been able to afford to do, and that's one of the reasons I'm seeking a third term. We have our current board president who will leave at the end of her term at the end of April. She has been on for 12 years. After Mrs. Meyerhoff leaves, I will be the senior member of the board, and I believe that institutional memory has a value. So, and we also are, not only will we be transitioning to a new board, but we have a brand new library director coming on January 3rd. So there's a lot of changes coming down the pipes for the library, and I want to be there to do what I can to help that along and maybe get some of those projects finished that we started. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, candidates. The library will soon have a new director. What qualities are important in a library director? And why don't we start with Janie? 1 minute for the reply, please.
Well, I was part of the committee that interviewed her and did the search and looked at all of the resumes that came in, and what we're looking for, what we looked for, and we believe we found. We're very excited to welcome our new library director with us next month. Is enthusiasm and a love of libraries. I think that she's never been a library director before, but she's been department directors over a system of libraries spread out over, I think, 8 or 9 libraries all at once. That's a lot administratively to take care of, and I have every confidence that she'll do a wonderful job and be an asset to our community.
Alexandra?
I think this presents both a unique opportunity and obviously some strategic planning opportunities in particular for a new director to come on. So I think some critical characteristics would be, as someone new to the community, is understanding what the community needs are in terms of services rendered at the library that are existing and need to be maintained or expanded, and then those that may need to be added in, and to add on Janie's point, to continue to grow the services they provide. I think a library director who's willing to learn and work with the community, but also bring in a fresh perspective with her experience, is going to be the most critical part.
One of the things I forgot to mention is that I work as a TA at Deer Path Middle School, and so I feel a great passion for somebody that could come in with innovative thinking to try to understand what people that have disabilities or that need more accessible reading are able to, or need to, what their needs can be. That's very important to me. So I'm hoping that the new person coming in is innovative. That's the word I would say.
Thank you. Okay, next question. As a new or returning board member, what programs would you like to see included at the library? We'll start with Alexandra.
I think that in terms of the library services that are currently offered, it goes far beyond lending books. We're talking about engagement with the community from youth through late adulthood, and also engaging and being conscious of services that may be needed for some of our families who may be under-resourced or may need some additional services. That can include things like navigating, the passport application process, and making sure that those are accessible to the wide spectrum of people who are served by our library. So I think it's looking at what we offer and what we can continue to expand in that area. I personally am utilizing quite a few of the youth services as a parent of young children, and would love to see those maintained and also expanded to kind of encompass what we are seeing from young families and parents that need to supplement their children outside of school. So I'd love to see expansion there.
Sandy?
Sorry.
Agreed. I was in the library recently, and I noticed that the spaces are exactly the same as they were when my kids were there. And so I'm wondering, not just about programs, but about the spaces and the learning that can go on and the reading based on more comfort level, and just it seems very institutional, and that was my concern.
I can say that space, which you mentioned, is probably our number one issue that we have to deal with, because over the years, one would think with all the electronic resources available to people that libraries would become less relevant. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. Libraries are more relevant than ever. And more services are being requested and being offered, and we are just bursting at the seams. And that honestly is one of the things that I want to continue on for, so that we can come up with some creative ways to use the space and to gussy it up a little bit. It is an aging building, and we're doing the best we can with limited resources and space. So yeah, thank you.
Alexandra and Sandy, having not been a board member yet, you may not be in the best position to answer this or address it, but let's try. The first question is, where do you get your book titles? So maybe Janie's in the best position to answer that. And then the follow-on question is, who do you feel should decide if and when books are banned from the library? Let's go back to Sandy to start this.
I don't know about the book titles.
Right.
I don't know where they came from.
Not a fair question for people who haven't been on the board before.
I guess the second one would be determined by the board in conjunction with the library staff, I think. I don't...
Janie, I see you shaking your head. You concur with that? Okay.
Okay, so that's all I can think of. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's fine. No, that's okay. Alexandra?
From what I understand, there's a fairly clear process when a patron may make an appeal to request that a book is removed from circulation. And to both Sandy's point and confirmed by Janie, that would go to librarians review and ultimately to the board with a recommendation. I think it's critical to have a clear process that is available to patrons and stakeholders. I also think it is critical to re-examine that policy to ensure that it serves what the ethos of a library is, which is to ensure there is a diversity in perspective, in authorship, in characters, in topic and subject matter, and that we are continuously evaluating that. If something is being requested to be banned, if it's in an effort to kind of sanitize what viewpoints are made accessible to patrons, or is it something that has a real concern for the community at large. So I think that there is a constant and a need for evaluation consistently to ensure that that process is clear.
Well, Alexandra gave the same answer that I would give as far as the process and being in place. And yes, as a matter of fact, we do have and have had for some time a a process by which you request reconsideration of any book that you have a question about in the collection. So I'll address what happens with the collections. There's adult collections and there's the children's collection, and there are heads of each of those departments, and those are the people who are responsible for choosing what books to order. As a board, we don't really get into the nitty-gritty of things like what books to choose and so on and so forth. We hire a talented and knowledgeable and energetic staff, and we trust them to make good decisions. And you know, when something sticky comes along, we do what we can to support them. In my almost 8 years, oh, okay, I'll stop.
Okay, thank you. A couple more. What do you think is the top priority for the library board in 2023? Let's see, we'll start with Alexandra.
I think given that we have a new library director onboarding in January, that is a top priority, especially since she will be steering the ship, if you will, in terms of programming, in terms of staff climate, and ensuring that those align. And navigating a change like that can be challenging, but also very exciting. So in looking at that as sort of the primary, I think most important thing coming up, it also influences some of the major challenges facing the library, which again is the space, funding, and programming, and how those all interact. They are inextricably related. So focusing on how to best support her and ensure that that is a very supportive and comprehensive onboarding process to ensure that she can oversee those programs and how they interact in a way that will be supportive of the current programs, while also mindful of how to expand in a way that is within the limitations of both space and funding.
Go ahead, Sandy.
I would agree. I think that we probably will, to some extent, need to wait to see what her positions are and how she operates. I'm not familiar enough with how that works with a new person coming in. So.
Okay, and Janie?
Well, as excited as I am to welcome Ms. Grassi when she does join us on January 3rd, this is a new experience for all of us on the board to onboard a new director. We will be leaning on some of the longtime staff members who've been through the process before. And we intend to give her all the support we possibly can, probably more than she's going to want. I hope that's not the case. But yes, I would say that onboarding the new director is probably the #1 job. But you know, things like coming up with the annual budget and so on and so forth happen very early on in the year, and so she will have to really jump right in with both feet. Because basically we have had an interim director now since August 1, and she's done a wonderful job, but it's a new position for her as well. So basically we've already 2 people.
30 seconds on the clock, please. Ladies, try to limit your responses to 30 seconds, and we'll see if we can get through all these questions. Okay, first one. If your budget doubled, what initiatives would you promote investing for in the long term? Janie, start us off.
Oh my goodness, if our budget doubled, we would add space ASAP. That is really our #1 issue, is that we need more space. And it's like anything else, what stops us is dollars. So, thank you.
Alexandra?
To echo Janie, I would think space being a primary or priority area for spending. I also think looking at what technological changes need to be made or can be made to really enhance the library experience, and leveraging other libraries that serve either similarly sized communities or have done things with similar space constraints or constituents that we can look at as models. So really evaluating how that tech impacts library usage and how we might be able to bring that in as well.
Going back to what I said before, I think that the library it has an aged feel, and I think that one of the first things I'd like to see done is to have it updated, because I really think it needs it in order to be a more kind of comforting space or comfortable space.
Very good. So this next question, ladies, is a perfect segue from your responses. Several years ago, the library had a concept plan for expansion that was estimated to cost several $1,000,000. This plan actually would have resulted in a reduction in space for books. Please comment about this for the future. Janie, why don't you take that first, and then we'll go down this way.
I'm a little bit confused about how it would constitute a reduction in space for books. I don't think that's accurate. But that being said, there are a lot of things that modern libraries today are offering that don't have a lot to do with the book collection. For instance, maker spaces and so on and so forth, that we have really no space at all for now.
I am not familiar with the kind of nature of what the plan that was proposed. I think that in terms of evaluating space and in relation to books, I think libraries will always be in the business of lending books, and also taking into account what is the community telling us that they need. Do they need more space for more physical books? Does there need to be more community meeting space? And so really leaning on the community to tell us what direction to go in is going to be critical. And again, not familiar with that particular plan, but think that it would be informed as such.
I would always hate to see fewer books, but I also am in a library every day at Deer Path, and I know that there are some amazing technological avenues out there, and I think that that maybe I wouldn't want to see fewer books, but I also think that we could probably explore a lot of that, especially working with kids, and a lot of the things that I see every day are unbelievably amazing, and I think that would be, it wouldn't be terrible.
And again, apologies to Sandy and Alexander if you don't know, because maybe you don't know yet. Does the library have an interlibrary loan system?
Yes.
Okay. So Janie, could I ask you to just elaborate for a few seconds on that for the benefit of the people asking this question?
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's called, is that Rails? Is that the interlibrary loan system? There are quite a few libraries in our geographic area that if someone is looking for something that's not in our collection, all you have to do is ask the librarian to see if it's available at another library, and it's usually within a couple of days that comes through for you. So yes, absolutely. And we also have reciprocity. If you have your Lake Bluff library card, you can go to other area libraries and check out things with your card. You could go to Lake Forest Library or Deerfield or wherever and check things out if you happen to be there. So yes.
Thank you. Okay, I feel like Karnak the Magnificent. I hold in my hand the last question for these ladies. What do you feel is missing from the library? What is needed? Janie, you start, and we'll take it back to Sandy.
What is missing? What is missing is the funds to do the things that we want to do. Because anything we do, whether it be just remodeling of existing spaces or building new spaces or acquiring new spaces in some other location, whatever that picture would take, takes money that we just don't have right now. So.
To echo what Janie said, from what I have experienced, it's space and making sure that the space accommodates the programming, both present and planned.
Space. And just, I think that it's such, I remember bringing my kids there, and it always felt so good to be there. But I also think that there are things physically that need to change.
Okay. Ladies, I thought all of you gave very thoughtful statements of candidacy, and you did a wonderful job answering the audience's questions. So let's join me in a nice round of applause.
we have a Venmo account. All you have to do is go to Venmo and plug in at Vote Lake Bluff, and it'll come up, and you can make a donation. It'll go directly into our checking account. And on the back of your program is kind of a summary of our expenses. These, I guess, everything on here is an actual amount except for supplies. I have it as $100, but we probably spend more than that. Our total for our biennial expenses is $1,574, give or take a little bit. But that's kind of what it is, and it's volunteer. So it's all volunteer money, and what we do is just help the candidates through the process of getting their nomination papers in and their petitions signed, and then you, the people, get to actually choose who is supported by Vote Lake Bluff. We don't decide, the people decide. So it's really as democratic as it can be. And we don't choose the candidates. The candidates volunteered to do it. And once again, they're all volunteer positions in the community. So if you can't give tonight, come back tomorrow with a lot of cash, or go to the Vote Lake Bluff, the Venmo account, and thank you all.